Good morning, everybody. Hope the mic is working well. I'd like to convene the LCCMR for today, July 30th, Thursday at 9:01 a.m. And welcome, everybody. We have a long list today on our agenda. Let's start with roll call.
Albrecht.
Albright here.
Albrecht present. Her.
Her's here.
Her present. Jordan.
Jordan present.
Jordan present. Beeman.
Beeman here.
Beeman present. Faber. Faber is excused. Finseth is excused. Gilman.
Gilman present.
Gilman present. Green.
Here.
Green present. Hedstrom.
Hedstrom present.
Hedstrom present. Heinzman.
Heinzman present.
Heinzman present. Langseth.
Langseth present.
Langseth present. Lilly.
Lily present.
Lilly present. McEwen.
Present.
McEwen present. Moore is
More present.
Moore present. Putnam.
Here.
Putnam present. Scraba.
Scraba present.
Scraba present. Westrom. Westrom. Currently, there are 14 members present.
Okay, members, we have quorum, and you probably already heard a new name is mentioned among our members, Mr. Tim Pinsep from Warren, Minnesota, and was appointed by Speaker Dameth this week. And so the name was called, but just in case those of you who are curious, our members, the new member is not here today, but he probably will join us next time in our meeting. So just FYI on that. Okay, next on our agenda is to approve the minutes for June 17th and 29th, 30th, and July 1st of 2026.
I'll move the minutes.
Okay, Chair Albright, move. No second, right? Right. Okay, all right. All in favor, say aye, or is it a roll call? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion prevail. Okay, next is report from members on potential conflict of interest. Any member want to note conflict of interest? Oh, online.
Sorry.
Okay.
Wake up.
All right. Member Hedstrom.
Good morning, everyone. Conflict of interest is 2027-124, 2027-193, 2027-307, and then 2026-318.
Okay. Any other members want to announce a conflict of interest? Is there, Commissioner Linseth.
Thank you, Chair. If we're doing 2026, I'll say 2026-396.
Okay, any other members? Okay, let's jump to next on the agenda. And if members want to announce later for any conflict interest to the at-large committee here, do so at a later point. Next is item number 4. This is a action agenda and request to release an interest in real property acquired by ENRTF funds. It's regarding RIM, Conservation Reserve Easement, continuation, and the Board of Water and Soil Resources. I'd like to call Okay, so Ms. Schofer, can you introduce our speaker or presenter?
Yes. Chair Her, members of the commission, I'm here to introduce Agenda Item 4, which is a request to relinquish 4.6 acres of land from a conservation easement acquired with ENRTF funds in 1993. The conservation easement was originally acquired to protect 56.5 acres of riparian land susceptible to flooding for soil and water quality and to enhance fish and wildlife habitat. The applicant is requesting 4.6 acres of land be removed from the conservation easement for construction of a replacement bridge and relocation of County Road 21 in Renville County. Minnesota Statute 116P.15 identifies that any interest in real property or any portion of the interest in real property acquired with ENRTF shall not be sold, transferred, pledged, or otherwise disposed of, or further encumbered without obtaining the written approval of the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. This statute also provides that the commission shall notify the chairs and ranking minority members of the legislative committees and divisions with jurisdiction over the trust fund at least 15 business days before approval of the request. The process requirements per Minnesota Statute 116P.15 have been met, and included in your packet are the required 15-day notice letter that was sent to the chairs and ranking minority members of the House and Senate Environment and Finance Committees on July 9th, 2026, and the request letter from the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources and Renville County Public Works. Minnesota Statute 116P.10 requires repayment if assets acquired with ENRTFs are sold. The repayment must equal the percentage of the project's total funding provided by the fund. In accordance with Bowser's conservation easement alteration policy, Bowser has calculated compensation for this 4.6 acre easement release at $44,401 to be paid by Renville County. If this request is approved, that $44,401 would be returned to the ENRTF. Sharon Doucette, Bowser's easement section manager, is here today to answer any questions you may have. Also joining remotely is Jeremy LeBlanc, Renville County's assistant county engineer, and Carly Swenson, Bowser's conservation easement specialist. Staff have a draft motion that can be shared when the commission is ready. Chair Her and members of the commission, I will turn this request back over to the chair to determine if you'd like to discuss, have questions for staff, or have questions for Bowser or Renville County.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. So, Ms. Doucette, do you have a presentation or it's just a Q&A?
Thank you, Chair Her. Good morning, Commission. I don't, because everything I was going to say, Tiffany covered.
Okay. So any question for Ms. Doucette? Members here and those are online? Let's give a few seconds for those who's online to raise their hand. Yes, Chair Jordan.
Thank you, Chair Her. I'm not sure who is most able to answer this question, so I'll just, throw it to the group. But can you talk to me a little bit about, 1994 was a few years ago, but I'm wondering about what the original intent of protecting this land was and why it was included in an LCCMR package. And I'm also wondering if Renville County is proposing a land swap for any of this land that they want to remove from protection.
Ms. Doucette.
Thank you, Member Jordan. So I can cover a few of the things. So it is a 1994 easement. It was purchased with the Future Resources Fund. It was originally a perpetual riparian easement. So the idea, we have many of these in Renville and Redwood County along the Minnesota River. And it was basically to protect the riparian floodplain area of the Minnesota River. The issue at hand now, as you can see from the map, is the Minnesota River is very close to the road. And the bridge is deficient, so Renville and Redwood counties, because it is the county dividing line, are working together on the bridge replacement. And Renville County is responsible for the replacement and moving of the county state aid highway as it approaches the bridge when they replace it. I think Renville County, Jeremy might be more appropriate to answer questions related to the project.
Thank you. Yes, the project as itself is not proposing a land swap. It is Renville County's intent to maintain and keep the original right-of-way so that we may work in the future, if necessary, to stabilize the Minnesota riverbank from encroaching on the new highway as it's built.
Any follow-up? Chair Jordan?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair, but I'm still mulling this over. I think for me, I think that what I'm grappling with is the intent of this, protection area was to protect floodplain area. It seems that we have not necessarily succeeded in, establishing flood resilience with this project. I guess I do have some concerns about removing land to protect from flood and protect riparian habitat if, we're not. I am not sure about this. I think, I understand the need to move the bridge, but it sounds like this easement area is also very important to the resilience of the Minnesota River and this area. So I'll let other members ask questions.
Member Lyncheth?
Thank you, Chair Herr. Are there any plans to try and enhance the wildlife along the ditches there, or if there's any wildlife corridors being? I would really like to see more culverts created for wildlife to transverse roads. It seems like that might be an opportunity. Just curious if there's anything in your plans currently.
Thank you, Member Linseth. Currently, there is no plans for, additional plans for wildlife travel and habitat. The road as itself currently sits very level to the existing terrain, and the bridge will come up to raise it above the floodplain to prevent overtopping. So that will be a change locally at the bridge area, but we will be returning to original grade as quickly as we can. Because this area is as you mentioned, a flood-prone area, and we're not raising the road in any capacity to prevent the flooding that may happen in the future, as we're not allowed to do that by MnDOT standards.
Commissioner Linseth, any follow-up? Commissioner Beeman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So from the memo, it seems that there will be a cash return back to the trust fund for the value of the limited acres, the 4.6 acres. Is there any other requirement with Bowser under the RIM program for additional wetland protection somewhere else? Or is there, I know there's not a land swap, but is there, besides this small amount of money going back to the trust fund, is there any other replacement or protection somewhere else that's tied to this change?
Mr. LeBlanc or Ms. Doucette?
Thank you, Chair Herr. There is not a requirement for replacement for public road projects and other public proposed projects through Bowser. I would say that the alteration policy that Bowser has was included in the packet. And one of the things that we typically see, and the way our alteration policy is written to address is this is a relatively large easement release for a right-of-way road project for us. Typically, they are very small, 1/10, 2/10 of an acre. And so our policy has been that we don't think replacing those on public land is of particular benefit. So we allow for municipalities and counties to repay at our current rate rather than doing a replacement. If this were a private landowner, replacement is absolutely required.
Any question from members? Going once, twice. Chair Jordan?
Thank you. And to Bowser then, I guess, has another parcel of this size that was protected using ENRTF funding, has another parcel equivalent to this size? You said most of the time it's like a fraction of an acre. has any other parcel, is there precedent for this? Have there been other parcels of this size that have been released without, remediation for other parts of the land? Is this like one of the larger projects that has been done? Is there anything else that has been done that's similar to this?
Thank you, Chair.
Presenter.
Member Jordan, I might call on Carly for this one. She handles all of our alteration requests. In my memory, this is one of the larger ones, and I did a quick look this morning, and we have approximately 200 easements that are funded by ENRTF over the history of Bowser and the commission working together to secure land, and I don't think I've ever been here before with a request like this.
Follow-up?
Carly?
Yes, thanks, Chair. That's correct. This is going to be the largest request to alter an easement for a public road project that Bowser has ever encountered. As Sharon mentioned, they're typically fractions of an acre for right-of-way widening, but because of this, the particular geographic layout of the road in proximity to the Minnesota River, there's really no reasonable alternative to not impact the conservation easement. Our policy does require avoidance if possible. And so just because of the geographic layout of this road, that leads to the larger impact to this easement.
Okay. Commissioner Linkdeth.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, yeah, so I see like it looks like you guys will be moving the road and bridge further east. Obviously, that's why you need the land. What would be the plans then for that western edge that will be bordering the river?
Ms. Doucette.
Thank you, Chair. I'll turn that one over to Jeremy.
Yes, thank you for the question. The plan would be to restore that to vegetation, mosaic seed from MnDOT's area, but would be a grassed area for I guess regular road ditch type or backsloping.
Commissioner Linkdeth.
Okay, that's good to know. I think probably most of us here, just besides a grass ditch or grass slope, if there could be some actual riparian vegetation that's planted,
Yes.
that would probably make us feel a lot better.
If I may, yes, there will be riparian seed as part of this project as well. So any native wetland areas that have that already will be reseeded and such.
Okay. Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment. The needs of this community to make this adjustment seem very reasonable, and I want to speak in support of it. I'm looking for, in the discussion, some kind of a concern that would justify a no vote, and I can't find one. It seems like this is a pretty important adjustment that needs to be made today, and I'm just going to put it on the record that I think that there should be a lot of yes votes for this.
Thank you, Representative Heinzman. Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, just can you expand the discussion on the public road project? You've talked about the bridge, but talk about, is it a private road, just exclusive, few people will get access to it, or is it for the public? How does it impact your community? It sounds like it's a public road that we'd all benefit from, so I think that's got to be taken into account.
Okay, Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes, thank you, Member Westrom. This is a joint project between Redwood County and Renville County. These are two county state aid highways, with Redwood County State Aid Highway 17 and Renville County State Aid Highway 21. And this would connect those two roads together. This is a a public road that is, I guess it's a very rural road, but it's a well-used road through that area.
And to follow up, Mr. Chair,
Westrom.
is there an existing bridge and this is moving it, or is this a new connection with the bridge too?
Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes, thank you. There is an existing bridge there. It is a historic bridge, which we've gone through cultural review on, and Redwood County is the owner of the particular bridge and is working to relocate that if necessary. But there is a bridge and an existing road in this location, and we're just realigning it. That bridge in place was closed in 2023. I'm sorry, for structural deficiency with the structure itself.
So right now the bridge is closed and there is no passage. So this would reopen what's been a passageway for the community. And when you talk historic bridge, I mean, let's not be, I'm guessing it's kind of like the historic bridges we used to, we have in our area, and some of them are pretty rickety. And structurally, when you said it was structurally deficient in 23, so they had to close it. I can only imagine that's several bridges in rural areas where I grew up come to mind. And so I think improving the structure, and many of those bridges are narrower, and in some cases they don't even have much for rails. I don't know what this one exactly does, but I think that seems like a very good, reasonable reason to change this. But good to know you're reconnecting. But feel free to add any more comments about the bridge, or was it state of the art before you closed it?
No, this was not a state-of-the-art bridge. It is a through truss bridge. So historical significance in that sense is that it's a cool bridge to look at, but it is very narrow. It's a single lane bridge, and when it was open, its max capacity was 15 tons of traveling. So this new structure will be a wider structure, a concrete bridge that will allow for heavier farm and emergency equipment across.
One last question. The bridge, have they looked at doing a large concrete culvert instead to make more of a permanent structure rather than a bridge that will eventually in 50 or 100 years need to be replaced again? I don't know how wide the river is there, but has that been looked at, or is that something you would look at? Because that's a good direction that a lot of roads are going, especially with culverts and equipment nowadays that wasn't available 50 or 100 years ago. And just wondering for a long-term investment, if that's something being looked at, a large culvert to make it a more permanent structure.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes, the river at the Minnesota River at this location is a very large river. The bridge itself will be over 300 feet long, and there would be no culvert large enough to put in that area.
Sounds good. I appreciate that information. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Representative Scrabble.
Thank you, Chair. More of a statement. Listening to the counties and Bowser, and we help fund Bowser. I trust their regulatory. They're making sure this project fits their needs and the community needs. So again, I'm trusting everyone that lives down there that this is something they need, and that the movement of the ENR, our money, is what they need and what we need. So I'm all in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, any other further comments? Chair Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Bowser, what is Bowser's position on this? Like, are you supportive of this? Do you have no stance? Are you not supportive of this? What is Bowser's official position on this project?
Ms. Doucette.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Jordan, this is large for us. I will say that it is a large easement release, but we are fully supportive of our local governments and their need to provide safe passage for the community, safe roadways, safe bridges. So we work with them, and we would be in support, we will support it after receiving permission from LCCMR.
Follow up, Chair John?
No.
Good question. And I sense that, this probably will get a majority yay, but let's say if it get the majority nay, what will be the outcome? Ms. Doucette or even Director
Thank you,
Becca?
Chair. If the commission chooses not to approve, Bowser will also not approve. We are required to have LCCMR's permission to do the release, so we will not approve the release. I will let Jeremy speak to what that means for the project if they don't get the release of the easement area.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Thank you. Currently the project has a budget of, or I should say an estimated cost of $5.5 million. Of that, $3.9 million is being funded with federal dollars, and $1.3 million is being funded with state aid bridge dollars. And that is time sensitive funding. Should this easement not be granted as a release, that would jeopardize that funding, and most likely the project would not move forward.
Okay. I still see Senator Weststrom's hand on Zoom. Senator Westrom, do you have another question?
Mr. Chair, I forgot to put it down, but to just clarify what the last comment was. The project would not move forward. The current bridge is closed because of structural deficiency, and so there's just no connection in the local community across the Minnesota River at this point. Is that correct? And basically, I'm familiar with other places where this happens, and it gets to be quite a ways around if you live locally to cross over the bridge. Is that kind of the correct scenario?
Mr. LeBlanc?
Member Westrom, yes, that is a correct understanding. This bridge is closed, and it is a gap for the community as far as connection. The resulting detour is 10 miles in length to cross the river.
Okay, any other members, any comments? If not, I'll take a member's motion to move this project.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I would move that we approve this.
Okay, Senator Westrom. Move to approve the Bowser request. Should I count? Yeah, okay. Ms. Schofer, maybe you can read the whole statement better than I.
Chair Her, Commissioners, the motion would be Commissioner Westrom moves to approve Bowser's request to relinquish 4.6 acres of land from the conservation easement acquired with ENRTF funds appropriated in ML 1993 subdivision 3E under the terms provided in Bowser's July 7th, 2026 written request. And then if the commission does move to approve, we would staff ask that further to direct staff to work with applicant to implement the approval.
Okay. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, then we shall have roll call.
Albrecht.
Albright, yes.
Albrecht, yes. Her.
Her, yes.
Her, yes. Jordan.
Aye.
Jordan, yes. Beeman.
Yes.
Beeman, yes. Faber is excused. Finseth is excused. Gilman.
Yes.
Gilman, yes. Green.
Yes.
Green, yes. Hedstrom.
Hedstrom, yes.
Hedstrom, yes. Heinzman.
Heinzman, yes.
Heinzman, yes. Langseth.
Langseth, yes.
Langseth, yes. Lilly.
Lily, yes.
Lilly, yes. McEwen.
McEwen, yes.
McEwen, yes. Moore.
More yes.
Moore, yes. Putnam.
Yes.
Putnam, yes. Scraba.
Yes.
Scraba, yes. Westrom.
Yes.
Westrom, yes. Currently, there are 15 yes, 0 no.
Okay, thank you, and motion prevail. Now we to item number 5. This is an action agenda. I'll pass on to Mr. Varian to lead this agenda.
Chair Herr, members of the commission, there are 3 work plans on the consent agenda ready for your consideration for approval. You have a spreadsheet in your packet with the ML 2026 work plans and conditions for July 30th, 2026. On lines 3 through 5, you can see the 3 work plans. Reminder, the consent agenda includes work plans accepted by staff with reasonable changes from the original proposals that are deemed ready for your approval. Any member can pull a project off the consent agenda for further discussion. If you do this, depending on the question, you may want to put the pulled work plan on the agenda for a subsequent meeting to allow the project manager to be present to discuss any concerns members may have. If you choose to approve work plans on lines 3 through 5, we ask the motion to include approving the work plan subject to the notes and contingencies provided on the spreadsheet. Chair Herr and members of the commission, if you would like to discuss and when ready, staff have a draft motion that can be shared with the commission.
Okay, any question from members? Looks like Commissioner Moore has his hand up. Commissioner Moore?
Yes, thank you, Chair Herb. First, I apologize. I had not read the agenda until just a few moments ago. I do have some conflicts of interest for 2026 that are noted on the website. I follow with a question to Director Nash. I don't remember exactly the rules of voting on situations like this. Do the members with conflicts of interest for 2026 not vote at all on this particular agenda item?
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair and members, I think you would just refrain from voting if there's a conflict of interest present. So if there's not a conflict of interest on these specific work plans, then I don't think you have a problem.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Chair Jordan, next to me.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to make a motion to approve this, but it seems that there's some online discussion.
Okay, Senator Green.
Not really discussion. I just was going to let you know that I can't, for some reason, get this up on my computer to look over it. So I'm going to not vote on this. And that's the reason why.
Okay, so Chair Jordan, your motion. Oh,
Mr. Chair.
Yep, Representative Heisman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I'm understanding the motion correctly, these items on the consent agenda, the work plans would all move forward. Is that correct?
Mr. Varian.
Chair Herr, Member Heisman, that is correct.
Okay.
Representative.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Chair, I do have a couple of questions, if that's okay. Is this the proper time for discussion?
It is Representative Heisman.
Okay. As I'm going through the list that was provided for members online, I'm seeing, I think, one of the projects, their fiscal agent is Friends of the Boundary Waters. Is that correct?
Mr. Varian.
Chair Herr, Member Heisman, that is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that clarification. If I could make a comment.
Representative Heisman.
I just would like to continue to voice concern relative to the organizational structure of the Friends of the Boundary Waters. There was a lengthy discussion on that topic at the last meeting, so I don't think we need to have a long drawn out discussion here again today. But if I am reading the proposal correctly, it appears that Friends of the Boundary Waters, to be precise, is acting as the fiscal agent for no cost to the Adaptive Wilderness Within Reach organization. Am I understanding that correctly? Could that be confirmed, Mr. Chair?
Yes, let's confirm by Mr. Varon. Go ahead.
Chair Her, Member Heinzman, that is also correct.
All right. Mr. Chair, again, I have another comment, if that's okay.
Go ahead, Representative Heisman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last meeting, it has come to my attention that not only were the issues raised relative to shared assets and space and so on with the additional operations that and activities that Friends of the Boundary Waters is engaged in, it's also come to my attention that they even share the same executive director with the wing that provides trips to kids, that side of their activities, as well as the anti-mining political side of that organization. I would encourage groups like Adaptive Wilderness Within Reach to find organizations that operate solely and have no crossover with political activist elements or groups. And it doesn't matter what the issue is. I think it would be wise to find a fiscal agent, regardless of if it's at no cost or what have you. I would prefer that there was a fiscal agent that may, as most do, take a percentage for the work that's being done to provide that service to an organization, as opposed to an example such as the one before us today, in which you have all of this question and all these issues that are being raised because of the political activities of an organization. And I don't think that I'd be that far out of line to also mention that there are many on this LCCMR board that receive donations, contributions to their campaigns from the Friends of the Boundary Waters PAC. It becomes so convoluted and so gray that members like myself feel compelled to point out the issues that this particular organization, Friends of the Boundary Waters, is associated with. And I would hate for that to muddy the water and bleed over into other organizations as they're trying to, I think, engage in providing opportunities that generally we can agree are great. If organizations can avoid that, I think that would be far better for the outcomes and for the discussions, and avoid any of those other kinds of conflict. So while this will probably move forward today, I would suggest a no vote to help groups recognize the conflict that they're creating by engaging with organizations that seem to not be separating their political activities very well from their proposals here at the LCCMR. So I wanted that on the record today. I wanted to explain my no vote, and I appreciate your discretion and opportunity that you've provided me, Mr. Chair, to make those comments.
Thank you. Any other remarks from members? Chair Jordan, you're gonna, oh, okay, you're gonna make a motion. Okay, Senator Green.
Yeah, I just was gonna let people know I did get it up and I'm reading through it, so I will be voting no on this too. Thanks.
As I recall, last time I did question whether there are other, and I think the question was put out by Representative Heinzman, and I reiterated that whether there are other agency, 501c4 or 527 or such, and also have the nonprofit arm that requests money through the LCCMR, and there are a handful of those organizations as well. So we are not putting preference on the Friends of Boundary Waters, but there are our recipient this year, and I think that Adapted Wilderness see the Friends of Boundary Water as a trusted fiscal agent and comfortable to work with. And I do hear the voice of opposition well, and it's noted, but I just want to state my point and give extra additional information. So with that, I want to pass to Chair Jordan. Do you want to make a motion on this? Or are we ready for that? Or, okay, I see another hands from Chair Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, Michael, what is the process if this project wasn't to be part of the motion of consent to pull it off the consent? Is that a majority vote, or what's the process if this project maybe should have some more discussion?
I think that would be a question to maybe like to have Mr. Barron explain, or Director Nash.
Yeah, Chair,
Mr. Barron.
Chair Herr, Member Westrom, our understanding is that it's not necessarily a vote. Any member could ask to have it pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Varian, if we pulled this one, we could still consent and pass the other two in a motion, correct?
Mr. Varian.
Chair Herr, Member Westrom, yes, you could move to approve the other two and then come back to the one that you pull off of there for further discussion.
And just for my own clarification, Senator Westrom, are you talking about the Adaptive Wilderness Project, pull out that only, or are you talking about the whole motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to make sure I get the facts and the rest of us understand it too. That's in the legislative process. That's also similar where if something's on a consent agenda, but there's a member or a few members that have concerns, they can pull it off the consent agenda. So I just wanted to make sure that that was a similar idea here, and it sounds like it is. If anybody does want to raise that concern or object, we could then have a further discussion. But the other two projects, I don't think come with this similar concern, and so I'm wondering what others think on that. But for now, maybe I have one question, Mr. Varian. How do we know? Is it common that an administrative fiscal agent would charge nothing for it, and how do they cover those costs if they do? Mr. Varian, do you know the answer to that, or do they have does somebody from the Adaptive Wilderness or Friends of the Boundary Waters have an answer to that? Otherwise, even the DNR charges us, and they've got all kinds of staff and money to administer the LCCMR, and it's kind of be similar. That seems like there'd be a couple $1,000s of expense, but who's covering that otherwise? If you know, Mr. Varian?
Mr. Varen.
Chair Herr, Member Westrom, you're correct. Often the fiscal agent does charge a fee or a cost, but that's not always the case. In some instances, they use their own funding to cover any of those costs. I don't know the exact funding source for the Friends of Boundary Waters in terms of how they are covering that cost in this case.
So, and there's more of a, maybe a concern or comment, but I'll open it up for others to just decide if we want it on the consent or not, but, I mean, we know their political activities is very much anti-mining and so some of those funds, it seems like, are what's gonna cover the costs for this adaptive wilderness, which then does kind of bring to me a question to that group and entity, what kind of quid pro quo is going on, and if their group is entering into this same type of political dynamic. I think Representative Heinzman's comments, we should probably heed his comments, and I would say the adaptive wilderness should probably steer clear of this concern that has raised a lot of eyebrows in the past 6 months. Just, I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chair. If other people want to comment, I'll decide if, after I hear from others, what to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to remind us that of what I remember, if my memory serves me correctly, that the adaptive wilderness within reach was a very compelling presentation about creating pathways for disabled people to get access to the outdoors. It's a small organization, and so nonprofits, I worked at a nonprofit that also did something similar, will help small groups that have a really unique and compelling mission to help be their fiscal agents, because small organizations have a hard time doing so. So they can act as a charitable fiscal agent. It's actually a good deed. So I just want to put that out there. And I would say we should not remove the work plan from any motion that is put on out there. Thank you.
I agree with that too, Commissioner Lingseth. I also noted that is adaptive wilderness here online, or, okay. So if there's any question that direct to them, they'll be happy to answer. Okay, Representative Scraba.
Yes. Sorry. So the whole issue of the consent agenda, doing them, in my opinion, these have already made it through. They got their approval. We're looking at them again. We're looking at cost reductions. They're taking away. We're going through the process. For me, again, for whatever reason, every project that you have is in the district I represent. So I'm looking at all of this and looking at the projects, and I'm like, it benefits all of my district. It works in favor of the use and that. The politics behind it, yes, I'm disturbed, but it's not enough for me to stand in the way of something we've already approved, and we're correcting anything else. So I'm going to support all of them. I'm going to support this whole agenda, the consent agenda. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see, Chair Jordan, you want to renew your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the consent agenda for the 2026 work plans.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not roll call.
Mr. Chair,
Albrecht,
Yes, Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if Representative Jordan would be amenable to approving the two aside from adaptive wilderness separately, and then we come back and consider that one as a single motion.
Representative Jordan, or
Mr. Chair, I would not support that.
okay, motion is renewed. Roll call.
Albrecht,
Albright, yes.
Albrecht, yes. Her,
Yes.
her, yes. Jordan,
Yes.
Jordan, yes. Beeman,
Yes.
Beeman, yes. Faber is excused. Finseth is excused. Gilman,
No.
Gilman, no. Green has declined voting on
No,
this.
I'll vote no.
Green, no. Hedstrom,
Hedstrom, yes.
Hedstrom, yes. Heinzman,
Heinzman, no.
Heinzman, no. Langseth,
Langseth, yes.
Langseth, yes. Lilly,
Lily, yes.
Lilly, yes. McEwen,
Yes.
McEwen, yes. Moore,
More yes.
Moore, yes. Putnam,
Yes.
Putnam, yes. Scraba,
Robert, yes.
Scraba, yes. Westrom,
No.
Westrom, no. Currently, there are 11 yes, 4 no.
Okay, motion prevail. Okay, next on the agenda is item number 7. Debrief on the RFP. Okay. How does member feel about this year evaluation? And
Mr. Chair.
did I miss something? The big one. The big one. Oh, okay. All right, I'd like to call Mr. Capana to talk about the big one here.
All right, thank you, Chair, Herr, members. I'm just going to give a short summary of evaluation number 2 and the compiled results. For more detail in your meeting materials, you have a memo, you have 3 table spreadsheets that summarize those results as well. I'll also point out that in your materials, we have included the additional materials that were provided to you during your evaluation number 2, the additional information that you had requested or comments we'd received back from people. So to begin with, I just wanted to summarize. Staff followed the procedures adopted by the Commission at the June 17th meeting. Just to remind everybody, those procedures were to rank all the proposals from high to low based on the proportion of members allocating funds to a proposal, then calculating an average allocation amount for each proposal based on the members that had allocated funds to a proposal, and then going down that list of ranked proposals and adding that average amount together until all the funds were spent. And if that happened to fall in the middle of a group of proposals, we would then either include that group or exclude that group depending on what created a final total that was closer to the amount available for allocation. So that sort of summarizes the basic procedures that staff followed and the Commission followed, adopted at the June 17th meeting. So following these procedures, these were the results of evaluation number 2. That cutoff did end up landing in the middle of a group of proposals that 63% of members allocated funds to. So if we had including that group results in overspending by about $6.1 million. Excluding that group would have resulted in underspending of about $7.8 million. Since 6.1 is closer than 7.8 to the total amount, we did end up including that group in the initial agreement. So that means there were 116 projects that would be funded under the initial agreement, and that would include the DNR contract, the LCCR administration, and the LCC legacy website. So I talked about those 2 tables that are part of your meeting package. So we presented those results in 2 different types of tables. One includes says showing individual allocations from highest to lowest. That's the one with a lot of columns. That shows those results, but also shows how the distribution of members allocating funds looked like. Just to clarify for everybody, when it says 1, 2, 3, that 1 does not indicate that is the one member's allocations. That's just, it goes from highest to lowest, so from 1 to 16 in this case. The second spreadsheet table we have for you that shows these options is the one that just says the initial agreement as of July 20th, 2026. That shows the same information in terms of the initial agreement, but in this case, it includes the staff comments and the member comments. So those are the two tables you have in front of you showing the results of the evaluation number 2. So based on evaluation number 2 and the initial agreement rules set up, that means there is $6.1 million over allocated at the moment. Staff have developed 3 basic options for your consideration to deal with that over allocation. Of course, you also can come up with other options if you wish. So just to summarize, option 1 would decrease the projects in the final group that made the cut, so those selected by 63% of members, by 43.9%. This would result in a cut so that would cut 6 proposals in addition to the cut they may have taken from the average allocation. There would be about $4,000 remaining, and this could be covered using the commission buffer. This option would result in funding recommendations about 38% to 53% of the requested amount for those proposals. Option 2 would pull in the next 2 sort of groups that were ranked the lowest. So this would be any proposal that was selected by 69% of members or fewer. Option 2 would decrease those proposals by 29.2% from the average allocation amount. So this would result in a cut in the average allocation amount to 13 proposals. The remaining $3,000 over allocation could be taken from the buffer to balance everything out. In this case, those proposals that were being cut would end up with their funding recommendation would be up 47% to 93% of their requested amount. The final option staff put together would be a cut to all proposals contained in the initial agreement, and this would result in a cut of 4.92% for those proposals. Just to point out, following the rules established by the commission, small projects would not be subject to that cut. In addition, no project would be cut below that $300,000 threshold. So this would result in a decrease in the average allocation amount for 84 proposals. There would be about $11,000 over allocation still in place, and this we could take from the buffer to balance everything out. We have included in your materials a spreadsheet table that shows in detail what the cuts would look like for each proposal under each of these options. There is shading to indicate which ones actually were subject to a cut based on the option. So now putting that all in front of you, you can decide now how you would like to handle that over allocation. But before you begin that discussion, I just wanted to add 3 very quick notes. First, there are 2 members that have declared a direct personal financial interest in a related organization that is part of the initial agreement. So those members will not be able to discuss or vote on actions related to these specific proposals or would impact the consideration of these proposals, including if they are included in a recommendation package. So assuming these proposals remain in a proposed package, it's going to take a vote of 9 members to pass that recommendation. So that's the base of 11 members minus the 2 who have that conflict. Second note quickly, there is a sample motion in the memo, so if anybody wants to move motion, we do have a sample motion ready to go for you guys. And then finally, I just wanted to point out that staff are prepared to run any calculations or additional options members want to consider. We just ask you a little grace because it does take us a little time to put those numbers together for you, make sure they're accurate. With that, Chair Herr, I'll turn it back to you.
Yes, Chair Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for that recap and all the work that staff did to put together all these proposals because it's a lot of higher math, so kudos to you all. When I look at the proposals, I appreciate that you've tried to give us some options. Given that some of those, all of those projects on the lower 3 tiers and in particular the last tier have already taken quite a substantial cut, I'm in favor of proposal number 3. So I'll move to recommend all proposals above the $129,644 million cutoff as shown on the attached initial agreement spreadsheet dated July 2026, with the adjustment as described in option 3 be passed.
Okay, motion's made by Chair Albright. Any discussion on her motion? Senator
Mr.
Westrom.
Chair,
Yes, Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, I just wonder if we could talk about a few alternatives before we get into the motion, but that's what we're on right now is discussion, but Member Albright, one other calculation I worked with my staff on is doing a little larger reduction of projects over $4 million. And the example we used was 10%. And then the remaining projects would take a 3.4% or roughly thereof as another alternative. And so I just want to throw that out for members as a alternative way. There's only about 5 that are getting over $4 million, and if they took a 10% cut, they'd still get a substantial amount of money. And so I want to share that as an idea, a possible amendment to your proposal, but I'm not moving that now to Member Albright. I just want to bring it up if there'd be some interest in that. One more question I have, Mr. Varian. You said that the 4.9% reduction does not count the projects under 300,000. Did you run any figures if we did just a reduction of 4% to everything? Even though they're small, and some of them that are under 100,000, I get it. It's probably less wiggle room, but it's also less of a reduction. If we did a 4% across the board, I realize they're submitting proposals, but it is just proposals. And I think if we even had a project of 299,000, they could probably absorb a 4% or would find a way to make the project work. So maybe if we're going to do an across the board, I think maybe that's a more appropriate way, and then everybody just squeezes out any excess that they can find a different way to do, and some of them would only be like $2 or $3 or $5 or $10,000 max. So, Mr. Varian, do we have any runs, or do you know a percentage if we did just included everybody in this option 3 scenario?
Mr. Varian, to the Westrom question. Oh, Mr. Capana. All right. Mr. Fukampa, you are correct.
Thank you, Chair Herr, Senator Westrom. I'll answer that question. No, we did not run a scenario where all projects, including the small projects, were taking a cut. We were sticking to sort of the rules that were originally established by the Commission in terms of evaluation number 2. We could, of course, run those numbers right now if the Commission is interested, or Senator Westrom is interested in that.
If you could, while we're discussing it, I'd be interested. And I guess maybe part of my persuasion of that is we've already protected those projects completely from any reduction or any one of us saying, you know what, this seems like it's a little high, or this is not what I would support. So by implementing the rules we've used where anything under 300 is either 0 or all, I think it'd be reasonable to consider something under 5% for all of them if we're going to go that route. But again, I'd be interested in comments of if we did a larger for the top 5 projects that are all over 4 million, if we did 10%, and then the remainder would be more like a 3.4% reduction. Might be the way I would like to go, or suggest we consider going. But if you could get me that number, that would be helpful as we're discussing this. Okay, Mr. Capana,
could this will be offline, right, between Mr. Campana or 5 minutes? Okay. Do we,
So,
direct?
Mr. Chair, yeah, my intent
Yes.
would be others could discuss while staff works on this, and they can come back to us in a few minutes.
Okay. To the rescue, I see a hand raised by Representative Leon Lilly. So Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would speak in favor of Senator Westrum's concept. I think reaching into the smaller groups is really, it's not sacred ground for me. So I guess I think that's a good idea and a good concept. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion from members? Chair Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I disagree with my good friends, Senator Westrum and Representative Lilly. When a project is very small, a $5,000 haircut is pretty significant. I worry about these smaller projects' ability to complete their projects if they are cut. It just goes a lot farther with these smaller projects. I do support the Albrecht motion. I also considered what Senator Westrum said about taking from the 6 largest projects, or also even projects that, are just like grant organizations or ones where they would have, just less additional capacity. But I do think what Chair Albrecht has proposed is what is most fair. It allows us to fund a lot of projects, and I think using the smaller projects to fund all these larger projects would just make it harder for these smaller projects to go through, and I wouldn't want to jeopardize the viability of the project by cutting them. I think it's just a lot fairer if it's, looking at the scope of millions of dollars versus, under $300,000, that it's just a little bit fairer to go with the option 3 that was proposed by Chair Albrecht.
And just to reiterate, the option 3 will not reduce anything below 300. Okay, so I think that's what I heard Representative Lilly say as well. So do we have an answer for Senator Westrum now, or?
It's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while.
At least 10 minutes, yeah.
All right, do we want to recess then?
So you could, I don't know, you could recess, you could move to vote.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Westrum.
Mr. Chair, I might just solicit a couple of pieces of feedback. What would people think if we did a 10%, or if 10 is too much, a different number, but a little higher on the top, on any project over 4 million, which would be 5 from our count that I worked with staff. That would get us down to more of like a $3 million gap, and then just have the rest of the projects take a percentage haircut, if you will. If we trim the larger ones a little bit more. Rep. Jordan sounded maybe a little open to that idea, and maybe Senator Putnam, I'd just solicit your input, and Member Albright as the maker of the motion. If you'd comment after Senator Putnam, I'd just be interested in a few little feedback on that idea.
Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Westrum, for asking my opinion. I do think that I kind of see both sides of this one to a certain extent, in that the gains that we would get for paying down the absence from tapping into the smaller bills are not going to be all that significant, because they're going to be smaller amounts being taken from them. However, I think Tori's got a great point in that we didn't actually do the same sort of questioning process with the smaller bills as we did with the bigger ones. So I will also say that some of the bills that are kind of towards the bottom of the pile, which I'm assuming is why Tori's asked me to think about this a little bit. A lot of those are ag related, which is unfortunate from my perspective, because I think by and large, the commission does some really great work, but we don't tend to focus as much on those issues that are agricultural related as I would prefer. And so I think that's also part of a concern when I look at this list of issues. But I will say that I see both sides of the argument pretty well on this one. But I see where Tori's coming from on this one too.
Now, Senator Westrom, just one question. Would any amendment be proper to be made on the option number 3, the motion by Chair Albright, so that we can best use of our time?
Mr. Chair, maybe the best motion then, and it would be kind of, well, how about if I just throw out I would move to amend that we reduce any project over 4 million by 10%, and the remainder is reduced out of the projects in option 3, which would not be the ones under 300,000. So my motion would be to reduce projects over 4 million. The 5 projects receiving over $4 million were reduced by 10%, and then reduce the rest of the projects over 300,000 by the percentage accordingly.
Okay.
Which would be about 3.4%, based on my staff, our calculations we did the last day or two. But my main motion would be to just cut the top 5 projects, all of them over 4 million, by 10%. That's the motion to discuss.
Okay. All right, Chair Jordan?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm not that good at flipping through pages. Can you list out those, and maybe, I think Senator Westrom said his staff worked on this. I don't know if somebody can just list those projects that are over 4 million, because I'm just trying to highlight things and my eyes just aren't that good.
And Senator Herb?
And I also believe that the
Chair Albright.
Albrecht motion is on the table as well.
I just want to ask for clarification. Are you suggesting those projects that were originally their original request, or how they came out in this allocations process? Because while I understand Senator Putnam's and probably Senator Westrom's interest in having ag projects, those projects fell at the bottom, and some of them are larger than 4 million and would, are at 80% now and would take another 10% cut. So I'm just trying to figure out, are you asking from the amount requested or from the compiled member evaluation average amount?
Sir Westrom?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Albright, it would be just the projects that are being proposed to be funded over 4 million in our, after evaluation 2. There was 5 of them according to what we came up with. My staff is online. I could have them probably list them off quickly if we want, but I would guess Mr. Varian or Capano could probably find those 5 projects. So it's the latter, Commissioner Albright, not how they came in for original requests. Then it would be a bigger number of projects that are still over 4 million, but there's only five left that are over 4 million. So that's the ones I'm saying we do 10% on, and then take the rest of the percentage according to your motion after.
Okay, we have a number of show of hands here. Before we go to formalize any motion, particularly the motion to amend by Senator Westrom, but let's hear people in lineup. I will go to Mr. Capana first, and then followed by Representative Lilly and Commissioner Linkseth.
Thank you, Chair Hurd. Just to clarify what those 5 projects are, if members are interested, the 5 projects that average allocation amount was greater than $4 million was line 17, 2027-115, which is the Minnesota State Trails Development, line 36, 2027-456 AIS Solutions for Minnesota Innovation Translation Leadership. Line 82, 2027-371 SNA Habitat Enhancement, Public Engagement, and Biodiversity Protection. Line 30, 2027-312 Local Parks, Trails, and Natural Areas Grant Program.
Can you say that number again?
Yep, that was line 30, 2027-312. So that's the Local Parks, Trails, and Natural Areas Grant Programs. And then line 42, which is 2027-555, the Tetagooch State Park Entrance Bridge Replacement.
And then 82, right? Or-
Yeah, and line 82, yes, which is 2027-371, the SNA and Habitat Enhancements. Those are the 5 where the average allocation amount was greater than $4 million. So in order of line, because I know I went sort of out of order in terms of how it shows up on the table, it's line 17, line 30, line 42, line, 36, line 82.
Okay.
Does everybody have them? Okay.
So let's keep that as FY for now, and let's go to Representative Leon Lilly. Whether
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to kind of back up. I like the bigger groups that Representative Westrum's talking about, but I actually would stick with this original concept of going all the way down to the small groups. I heard my co-housemate say that wasn't fair, but it's actually fair if every group takes a sliver, every group all the way down to the smallest ones. So I think that's actually, I don't know, it's kind of a weird use of fair. To me, I would say that's fair, where every group takes a nip. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Then Commissioner Lingseth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I guess the concern I have with doing the 10% on the larger projects, they are already taking, some of them are already taking a significant reduction already based on the average evaluation. I guess I'm still in favor of the original motion that Commissioner or Chair Albrecht proposed. Thanks.
Okay. Now, Senator Westrom, do you want to readdress your amendment, or if not, then we just go ahead and vote with the law.
Mr.
Yes, Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, I guess I thought there might be a few others that comment on it, but for the purposes of just moving with it, I'd reiterate, the amendment would be that we reduce the largest 5 projects that are over 4 million by 10% and reduce the others in the Albright motion accordingly at a smaller percentage than 4.9.
Okay, so this will be an amendment to the Albright motion, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I see Senator Putnam's hands up. Let's go to Senator Putnam first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry for being remedial. We're not still stalling while there's just more math being done, are we? Because I'm willing to just blather on for a little bit if that's what we're trying to do. But I actually do have a genuine question, which is, could we sort of restate the whole thing at once? I'm a little bit unclear exactly where we're at. So could we kind of just boil it down into its absolute specificity real quick?
Okay, we have Chair Albright motion, option 3 on the table here in front of us, and an amendment has been brought forth by Senator Westrom. We may have to pass the amendment. It sounds pretty clear to me, but in case staff want to make it to a more committee contacts lingo, we can do that. But I think it's pretty clear with me on the amendment. Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to hear from Commissioner Albrecht, but I do actually think what her original motion is, which is option 3, is kind of a compromise between the two options that were proposed by Senator Westrom. And so I do still support the Albrecht motion as Representative, or as Commissioner Albrecht proposed it, but I am curious about what her, as the maker of the motion, what her feelings are. But my first preference would still be option 3, but I do think there are other options on the table that I could support.
So the maker of option 3, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason I like that option is because it does respect the allocation process and the ranking that we used. And so currently, if we were to take 10% from those 5 projects, 4 of those projects had 94% high ranking by this commission. And so they fared well under the rules and the process that we used. I'm not, you know, I think 10% is more than it needs to be. And I think that we need to respect the process that we used, which was everybody gets to rank. I'll also just share, this is a point in time when we will miss Mike Reese as our citizen member, because members had an option to submit a different proposal, and that's something Mike Reese almost always did, because he saw things differently than maybe we did when we ranked things. And we often adopted his proposal because we had it ahead of time, we knew what it was, and it was well thought out. You know, I'm just disappointed that if Senator Westrom's staff did spend time on this, that it wasn't submitted to staff so we could have it ahead of time and be able to review it and be better prepared to respond to it. So I continue to like the idea of using the proposal, the option 3 that was presented by staff. Thanks.
Commissioner Beaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually strongly agree with what Chair Albright just said in terms of the process. I mean, I think we have a lot of structure to this, and we had a lot of the rankings and the shifts based on the rankings and who compiled what. We went through the presentations. We made some adjustments, all of us collectively, which are now reflected here. And to just target 5 large projects because they have a lot of money, and I don't know if there's other reasons to target them, but to hit them extra hard, I do think does not do justice to the process. I also think it's a separate question from whether we want to just drop down the haircut on everybody into the projects below 300,000. I think that's a separate question, and we can debate that. But I think the part about just hitting the 5 largest projects doesn't jive with how we've approached it so far. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Capana, do you still need extra time for the math to show it to Senator Westrom, or?
Chair Herr, we're still reconciling just to make sure we have the right numbers here.
Okay. All right, I see a hand from Commissioner Moore.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Herr. And I want to thank the commissioners for such a thoughtful discussion. And I think all of the suggestions seem very reasonable to me. I personally could live with any of them. One thought I just recently had relative to Senator Westrom's suggestion is that 3 or 4 of those 5 repeatedly garner significant funding from LCCMR, and that may provide a reasonable justification to trim those slightly more proportionally than we would from some of those other projects. I certainly comprehend Representative Jordan's argument that these small projects taking a proportional cut will take a disproportionate hit because they just don't have the capacity to support that. And that's where I think Senator Westrom's suggestion is very, very reasonable. I'm certainly not opposed to the original motion indicated by Chair Albrecht as well. So thank you, everybody, for this discussion, and I will be at peace with any of these outcomes.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Moore. So Westrom, your hand's still up. Do you want to comment further?
Well, Mr. Chair, appreciate the comments. I mean, Commissioner Moore, I'm open to an amendment to the amendment if 10% is the wrong number, or somebody else had commented on that. It's kind of the same idea. If we're gonna, the large recipients certainly can probably adjust no matter what they get. And I agree with, I think it was Commissioner Albright or Langseth maybe, that if we go to all the projects, which is a separate motion or could be following this, I guess I'm trying to read the room, and I don't know. I'm getting some support and some not. I'm willing to withdraw the motion if there's a better alternative, or take an amendment if somebody has. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, if nobody does at this point, I'd say let's just take a vote on it and kind of read the room. But it would just amend the motion 3 to say 10% of the projects receiving over 4 million, and then the rest of the projects would receive a reduction accordingly. If that helps summarize it for some of you.
Yep. And Senator Westrom, you have your hands up. Oh, Putnam, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of want to underscore Comrade Westrom's point about so those groups that have greater resources having the capacity to take the haircut a little bit better. I think that is a really good point. But similar, I guess I'm still in the same space where Commissioner Moore is, in that I could live with any of these options. But I really just wanted to make that point to call Senator Westrom comrade. And I hope that someone appreciated that I'm also stalling for the math too. So that's all there.
Okay, let's do it this way. Since Senator Westrom already made his amendment, we'll vote on his amendment.
Could you repeat the amendment, please?
Senator Westrom, can you repeat your amendment?
Mr. Chair, the amendment would be that we reduce projects receiving over $4 million and receiving over $4 million, a 10% reduction, and then reduce the remaining projects of option 3 accordingly.
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair, Senator Westrom, I just want to clarify. So that would not be reducing the small projects. You're saying just the large projects would be reduced
Correct.
by 10%, and then everything else is exactly as it is in option 3.
Correct.
And is there a net, in your calculation, was there a net amount remaining after that?
I don't have that right accessible, but it was roughly 3.4% of the rest of the projects based on our calculation. So it'd be, I'll see if I can, but I don't know if that helps. I mean, instead of 4.9, it'd be a 3.4 or thereabout. That's
okay
after the 10% reduction of the large projects.
Sure. Right. Exactly. So we can do that before, right after Mr. Campana has give us some answer.
So, Chair, we've run our calculations on that, and I think what we found is it sounds like Senator Westrom's numbers are correct. So if you cut those 5 projects by 10%, the cut for the remaining projects would be about 3.42%, leaving the small projects untouched and also not cutting any project below $300,000. That would leave about a $1,000 over allocation at that point, which could be taken out of the buffer. So those are the numbers we're seeing right now based on that scenario.
Okay, so we may not need recess, but I want to pass back to Chair Albright to see what she think about the amendment to her motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like some have said, this is, I'm trying to be a commissioner who stays true to the process and that selects, as a group, that we select projects that are worthy of our funding from the Environmental Trust Fund. I don't have any pet projects in this list. I don't have any interest in any projects in this list. I don't have any potential conflicts or independent financial benefit from any of the projects in this list. So I'm just trying to do good work on behalf of the commission. And I recognize that all of us are trying to do good work on behalf of the commission. So it's just frustrating for me when we come to this point in our process, and then we have to try and scramble to figure out what is the number that each of these proposals is going to be allocated. And I think more than anything, it's just a frustration that we're asked to, on the fly, recalculate everything and try and figure out, is it equitable, is it fair, is it reasonable? Does it make sense for the proposer for that project and what they are going to be able to do with the funding they receive? And will it meet the goals and priorities and outcomes that they've put forth in their proposal? So for me, it's just more of a frustration than anything, that we're having to try and on the fly figure out how will this proposal be affected, and not just the money, but what that proposer is able to do with the funding that they receive. So with that, I'm willing to accept Senator Westrum's motion and to move this along, because I'm a roll up your sleeves, collaborate and get the job done kind of person. And so I'll accept his motion. I think it's not exactly a motion, it's more of a separate proposal. And so maybe what I will do is I will withdraw my motion and then let Senator Westrum make the motion on the proposal.
Okay, let's do that, Senator Westrom.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Hold on, the motion from Senator Albright on option three is withdraw. So now we are on a clear table now. Senator Westrom, to any motion that you would like to make.
That is fine, Commissioner Albright. Accepting mine as a friendly would have just amended yours and been the same, but I'm happy to make the motion that we move option 3 with caveat that we reduce projects proposed to receive over $4 million by 10% and reduce the others accordingly to approximately 3.4%.
Okay. Any discussion on the Western motion? Senator Green.
Yeah, we're getting kind of into the weeds now, so you have to catch me up here. Are we voting on what project we're going to vote in the final vote, or are we voting for the final allocations right now?
We voting
with this proposal.
We're voting on the Western motion with new language that maybe I'll have Mr. Campana just phrase it for us. That's will be the that will be the Western motion, and yeah, so it's not any particular project.
Mr. Chair?
Well, that's correct. That's correct. I'm not quite done yet. That's correct, Mr. Chair, and I understand that. But we have to vote this out to let it go for the legislature for next year for approval. What are we voting on here today? Are we voting to pick a project that we're going to be moving forward here today?
Yes, every project that we score.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Westrom?
Mr. Chair and Senator Green or Commissioner Green, I just think this answers your question. This is just to establish what would the funding level be for these projects that we're picking. We would still have to make a final vote to approve it as a package. This is just to determine the funding level, which my motion is option 3, but amended to take a 10% reduction on the larger projects, which is the top 5 projects receiving over 4 million. Does that help clarify it? Mr. Chair, if I'm saying something incorrect there, Director, please state differently.
Yeah, it's clear to me, but Senator, Commissioner Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding of the motion and action needed, that we are moving to recommend all the proposals above the $129,644,000 cutoff that is listed in this sheet with Senator Westrom's proposal that those that were supposed to be more than 4 million would now take a 10% cut, with all the rest of, and any leftover amount that we need to reduce would come from all of the rest of the projects. And this is our recommendation to staff to draft language to put forth for the legislative session. And if I'm incorrect on that, Director Nash, can you correct me? Thank you.
Director Nash, that's my understanding as well. And yep, Director Nash.
Mr. Chair and members, that was my understanding as well. And I think Mr. Campana has a comment if you're.
Mr. Campana?
Yes, I believe, Chair Hurd, that is my understanding. I just want to clarify that the rest of the projects, the ones that are below $4 million in average allocation amount, the cut there would not apply to small projects or cut anything below $300,000, correct?
Okay, so in front of us is the Westrom Amendment, and I hear Chair Albright's frustration. I am aligned with her because we can't just craft things in the last minute, but it seems to work. So in front of us is the Westrom Amendment motion, the Westrom motion, okay? And let's move on with roll call.
Albrecht.
Albright, yes.
Albrecht, yes. Her.
Her, yes.
Her, yes. Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan, yes. Beeman.
Yes.
Beeman, yes. Faber is excused. Finseth is excused. Gilman.
Yes.
Gilman, yes. Green.
No.
Green, no. Hedstrom.
Abstain.
Abstained. Heinzman.
Yes.
Heinzman, yes. Langseth.
Langseth, no.
Langseth, no. Lilly.
Lily, yes.
Lilly, yes. McEwen.
Yes.
McEwen, yes. Moore.
More yes.
Moore, yes. Putnam.
Yes.
Putnam, yes. Scraba.
Graba, yes.
Scraba, yes. Westrom.
Yes.
Westrom, yes. Currently, there are 12 yes, 2 no, 1 abstain.
Okay, motion prevail. Okay. Let me just double check the order of business here before, no recess, but give me 30 seconds. All right, just want to double check here. the order of business here, and looks like we're complete. The big one, as earlier was referenced to, we're now on item number 7.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, if somebody is interested in modifying that we go lower, I think that would be an appropriate motion still at this time. But if not, then what we've done would be completed. So I just wanted to raise that because there did seem to be some interest in others going to the projects, and I would actually have supported that too. But if somebody wanted to, but otherwise, if no motion comes, I just wanted to be clear on that before we moved on. If somebody's interested, now would be the time.
Sure. Thank you, Senator Westrom. I think we spend ample time with your leadership, and so we all concur, and a majority of us concur in support of your option. So we're good with that. We'll just move to the item number 7, the brief on 2027 RFP recommendation process. Let's see. There's a few points here. Maybe just throw out there, you can say a casual conversation, but it will be on the record of what do you think the process that we have carried this forth and recommending the 2027 RFP has been for you. So this is almost like a debrief or a retreat question to members, and we'll spend maybe 15 minutes or so. Looks like we still have time. The other reservation for this room is right at around noon. So just want to throw that question out there, and before we jump to other business, if no one want to make any statement here, we're good. We just move on to item number 8. Chair Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I remain disappointed in how much AI was used to generate these project proposals. There was a lot of AI used, not just in the project, just across the board. I would hope that applicants in the future would not use AI to generate their responses and to generate materials for it. I think it's one thing if we're teaching and using AI in, maybe like to identify wildfires, but to create your promotional materials, and was just very disappointing. To the applicants, you all used the same ones. You all either used Claude, ChatGPT, or Microsoft Copilot, so it was very obvious to me, but I worry about the use and proliferation of AI to create this. I worry about also, I do not like funding projects that are going to use a free version of AI to create their projects. That doesn't feel like a good use of state resources to me. And so I would just really encourage people, as you apply for LCCMR funds in the future, to not use AI. And a lot of the projects that we didn't fund, it really was just a lot of AI slop. And so I'm glad that we didn't really look at those. Some people used it thoughtfully, but in the future, I just am really dismayed by how much AI was in those projects. I read every single project that was submitted in those binders. I lugged them around the legislature for about a month. So please do not fill my binders with AI next year. Thank you.
Good. Any other members? See, Commissioner Gilman.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, members, for this option to vote remotely, or just to participate remotely as well. Again, I will concur. I did see Representative Jordan in the halls, in the chamber with her big books, and I got them delivered to myself as well. So a couple things I just want to bring up, being new to this space, very grateful that I was a part of this. I've learned so much. But again, there's several projects in here, and if you need to have the names of them, I could get them to you as well. But just in-state, projects that are happening in-state, if we're contracting things out of state, in the future, what could those things look like? If these proposals are coming to us, but the money is going out state, that was a little alarming. Some of the presentations said that there was, graduates or people from other colleges that would not be getting funded. But when you looked into it more, there was funding going for people's master's programs in other states. And again, that does not sit well to me. So, you know, if there's outstate proposers, how could we collaborate, but even keep the percentage down? I just was wondering if there's any more discussion about that, or if we section out a few of these. You know, I know we probably can't take these projects out unless that's voted upon to do that. But I definitely was concerned by those projects being elevated, that this money would be going out state. So I just wanted to get that on the record as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilman. Senator Westrom.
Real briefly, Mr. Chair, just on the process, when we established letter G or I think was it category G, that's the lower, or the H maybe it is. Anyways, on the projects under 300,000, that came about maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. A few of you might remember it. Some of you probably don't, but we kind of we were struggling as a commission to try to figure out how to incentivize smaller projects to apply and what would be the benefit of being a project that comes smaller as a proposal. And so we have more across the state, more organic groups, if you will, and not just your standard state agencies or government entities that seem to be the ones that are mostly receiving it. So I think we've accomplished that partly this year when we changed the interview or the presentation process. I actually heard some positive feedback from one or two of the proposers liking that aspect of it. And so I don't know if that's the right mix for sure, but I do think maybe we're on the path to having a benefit for proposers to bring a smaller project under 300,000 so we can stretch and allocate more projects across the state to maybe new groups or groups that haven't traditionally applied year after year. So I just raised that as I don't think we've got a final conclusion on what's the benefit of the small projects being proposed, but I think we've added to it this year in our presentation, not requiring them to come in and giving them I guess a stronger likelihood of getting support in the final process. Still do think maybe we should scrutinize the dollars a little bit, but that can be a discussion for another day. But my comments are mostly to highlight we've struggled to find a benefit for urging proposers to be small in their request, and maybe we've started down that path this year, and that might continue to encourage more small proposers. And I think the lottery fund, as intended, probably would like to see that if good projects come in.
Thank you, Senator Westrom. Commissioner Lingseth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Senator Westrom on that. I think it was a good move we made this spring to just allow the small projects through without the presentation. A lot of these, when I worked at a nonprofit, when you're putting in proposals for under $500,000, $1 million, it's nice just to not have to worry about committing more time and energy to that proposal and actually doing the work. So I think it's something we should consider doing again. And it also would allow for us, as our fund is growing, right? I think when I started on the commission, we had about $100 million that we were appropriating or recommending each year, and now we're up to 130. That allows for us to hear more of the larger projects, because I don't think we can take on more presentations. I think that we get pretty tapped out with the whole week. So that would allow for larger projects to be heard in that 90 presentation cap, and then just allow those small projects through. So again, this is an idea that as that money's growing, we're going to need to be funding more projects, and how do we prioritize who's getting the presentations? So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Lingseth. Next is Senator Green. Yep. Oh, okay.
I'll just pass. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. Chair Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sort of picking up on what Representative Gilman mentioned about out-of-state contracts and whatnot. Some of us struggled a bit with the allowable expenses that were included in proposals. And I'm interested to hear a little bit about what folks are thinking about the allowable expenses. We have a policy in place that lists the allowable expenses, but we often fund projects that are contrary to that or maybe bend the rules a bit. And so I just want to remind everyone that at our June meeting, we did appoint a subcommittee that will meet to talk about allowable expenses and if we should have any changes to our policy. They include Representative Jordan, Representative Scraba, Senator McEwen, Commissioner Beeman, and myself. And I think all of us would like a little direction from members. If you have any thoughts right now you want to share about allowable expenses. There have been some discussions about should we pay participants to attend trainings? Should we purchase vehicles? There's just a list of things that seem to come before us that we're wondering, is that really something we should be funding? So I'm interested right now, as long as we have a few minutes, if anyone has any comments about allowable expenses that they'd like to comment on. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to make comment on what Chair Albright just mentioned? We can circle back as well.
I certainly would weigh in.
We have
on-
hands raised, yeah.
Okay, all right. Online. Sorry, I turned, when I look at the folks here, then I forgot to look at the screen. So the order will be Representative Lilly.
Thank you. I just want to thank staff. They continue to do a good job of looking at the projects and their rankings, and their notes are often helpful to me as I'm looking at it. I also get the binders. I don't look at every sentence like Sydney. Very impressive she is indeed. But I do look at it, and certainly the staff, I very much value their rankings and their comments, and I sometimes work around them, but most time I very much are using them. So thank you, staff.
Okay, and then Commissioner Moore.
I think Gilman was ahead of me, actually.
Okay, Commissioner Gilman.
Oh. Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Moore, also. Again, I was very impressed by the help that I got from staff as I walked through my rankings, and just I modified many of them because of the allowable expenses piece of it, and got to have more conversations around that. I think having a framework and then us sticking to that as we go through this process would be really great. It's one thing to kind of understand like a conference can cost, this much money, or, we don't know how much it is. But when you like hearing Director Nash talk about some things as well, when I first came in, we have to look at that. And so for me, I had no troubles taking money off of what they were asking for. And then also as we listen and do the process, could this project still happen, or could these things still happen if they don't get their expenses? But again, that to me goes back to there is money in these projects that are in this package that are it's going to go out state. And I know that in the legislature, we have lots of different things that we deal with. And again, when things go out state, or it's talked about quite a bit because we do want to help our folks here in Minnesota. So I'll be so excited to hear what the subcommittee comes up with. And if they want any of my feedback or input, just from me, seeing this process and having like a business mindset lens from my personal business and how we have such accountability and things that we do to track where our money goes, I think it's very important. And I think it should be really heated that this process should not, we need to have scrutiny under those things. So I personally went through all of them and, definitely took money off of, the bulk of those because of how they were listed. And I didn't think that aligned with what, the original intent was. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Gilman. Commissioner Moore?
Thank you, Chair Hurd. And in response to Commissioner Albrecht's question about allowable costs, I guess I would make a different point in that having been a proposer of projects like this and writing many grant proposals, there are very frequently occasions when the capacity needed to accomplish a project does not lie in Minnesota, but the benefit goes directly to Minnesota from the accomplishment of those projects. There are laboratories that only are located in other states that are required to do some of the data analysis work from the data collected from a Minnesota project. Similarly, there are experts at academic institutions that are outside of Minnesota where that capacity does not lie within the state. So I have a much less strong view on out-of-state expenses if the net benefit goes to the state of Minnesota. That said, I do agree that conference expenses may be a little bit extraneous for the purpose of this funding, and there are certainly many things we can take a closer look at, but I do think we need to be smart and reasonable about using capacity that is not located within Minnesota when the benefit nets towards Minnesota itself. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Beaman?
Thank you, Chair. Two things, but to the points about the allowable expenses, being one of the people who volunteered for this committee, I don't know if staff was intending to, before the meeting, send out any sort of inquiry again to commission members for ideas or to go over the list of what are the allowable and non-allowable expenses, but it would be very helpful before we start meeting to have a bit more concrete thoughts from the rest of the commission about what are you concerned about, so we know where to focus the discussion. That would be very helpful. And I do agree strongly with Commissioner Moore about the balance between there might be reasons to have money technically going out of state to a lab or a researcher that's very unique, but the benefit to Minnesotans is what we really should be looking at. So I agree with that. But to change tack, in terms of feedback on the process, we all are thinking about how much, there were 400-something proposals. Will that number continue to increase? And is there some limit to what we can just have a capacity to even consider and read? And two, with the amount of money increasing, is there any change to, again, I don't know and I don't have a suggestion, but just a change to the evaluation process to address more and more money that we have to give out? And are we going to get more and more proposals? And how do we handle that in a realistic way, would be my question.
Okay, good. Well, I thank you, everyone's input and sharing your ideas. This will help us, maybe plan on the future. Also help applicants maybe tailor their application as well to appeal to our decision making here. I want to also add on one point, and I have said it before, is equity. And so sometimes it's overlooked, even though we're trying to, be good and trying to be inclusive, but sometimes it's overlooked. And I was a little disappointed that we did include a project that are more African-American related. But that's in the past. We'll now already have a full package, but I just want members to be conscientious of that and not, we all have our own choice of voting, You know, the sad part of it is like, we only have a few people that vote for those projects that are conducted by community of color. And so for them to have a chance for evaluation or rank high for us to even pick them in our caucus is still slim. So I'm just want to shout out that we do consider, you know, let's say the Prodigal Son project, while the Prodigal Son still want to be acknowledged and not let the Prodigal Son to a point where they said, we don't care anymore. So I just want to make that point, share that with folks, and that's for our member to consider in the future. So thank you for all your input, and this is very, very valuable information, very valuable for the staff as well, and us, and applicants out there, agency out there. So now we're gonna move on to other business, if there's any other business.
Mr. Chair, there is no other business.
All right. Public testimony.
Mr. Chair, we received 3 letters related to proposals before you, and those were both posted on the meeting page and distributed in packets.
Okay. Thank you for the information, and also thank you everybody for making my job as chair easy again this time. And we don't have to resort to recess. We actually gonna adjourn early than the expected time. So instead of having reset in the middle, we have recess after I adjourn. Okay. So any other announcement?
Mr. Chair, I was just going to say, we generally at this meeting also try to get a picture of the commission. So if you are willing to, and if the people online are willing to show their faces, we can arrange the people in person in front of the in front of the screen and take a picture of you after the meeting adjourns.
Okay, over there. Okay. All right. Thank you, Director Nash, and 2 of my co-chair and all members for this very progressive decision for today's agenda. Thank you very much, and meeting is adjourned.